friends, Chubby Meeple here, back with another Kickstarter preview for you. Today we're taking a look at Gorus Maximus. This is from designer Connor McGoey, published by InsideUp Games, featuring art from the brilliant Kwanchai Moria. We're going to jump over to the table. This game's, of course, currently seeking funding on Kickstarter, but I'm going to jump over to the table, give you a quick overview of the gameplay, and then I'm going to come back here and tell you what I think of Gorus Maximus. When setting up a game of Gorus Maximus, you're going to choose, at the beginning of the game, you're going to select the schools or the suits, as well as the cards from each school that will be used in a game. What you're looking at now on the spread of the table is all of the cards that are available in the game. So if we were playing a full 8-player game, we would use all 5 schools. So we would have the red axes, the blue fists, the green arrows, the brown swords, and the yellow shields, as well as all cards in each of those schools or each of those suits numbered from 0 to 15. Since we're going to be demoing a 4-player game during this particular setup and during this particular demonstration and walkthrough of the game, we will only be using 4 of these schools. So I'm going to eliminate the yellow shields. We're going to pull those out. And then in a 4-player game, you also will not use the 13, 14, and 15 cards of any of the schools or any of the 1, 2, and 3 cards that we have here. So in a 4-player game, we're going to use 4 schools, and we're going to use the 0 card of each school, as well as cards 4 through 12 of each school. Once you've collected the cards that you need for your game based on the number of players, you will shuffle the deck and deal out the entire deck. Each player will have a hand of 10 cards made up of, in our case here of this demo, 4 schools. Again, cards 0 from each school and cards 4 through 12 from each school. We're also going to have an indicator. I'm just going to place it in the middle of the table just for purposes of examples here. We're going to have an indicator here of the trump suit, and that is important because that trump suit, or in this case what's called the preferred school, is going to change throughout the round or throughout the hands as they go along. And we'll explain that more in depth here. Please note this is prototype. The coloring and symbols do not match the actual colors on the cards. So for the purposes of this demo and the walkthrough, I'll be using the symbols and not paying attention to the colors on the cards so that we match those up. So we'll just set that aside so that we can keep track of what our preferred school is. So the first player, we'll just call this player down here our first player, is going to pick up their cards, and they're going to be able to lead any card in their hand that they wish. It's completely up to them. So let's just say they throw out this 6 of the blue fists. This 6 being played is now not only the initiating school or the called forward school, it's also the suit or the school that needs to be followed by the other players. This also sets our preferred school. So in this case, our preferred school is now the fist school. So that is, the preferred school is essentially this game's version of trump. The next player has to follow suit by playing a blue fist card if they wish. They also have the option of challenging, which we'll cover here in a second. So let's just say they play the blue 12 out here, and it is recommended that as you play your cards that you lay the cards down in front of you rather than throwing them in a pile like you would typically do for a trick-taking game. Just because you want to be able to see what the initiating school was. So if I were this player, I'm looking at this, I see blue was led, and so I know I need to play blue, or I can challenge, which we'll talk about. In this case, we have, looking at the cards here, we have a 6, we have a 12, and we have a 5 of blue. So as of now, this player is going to be winning the trick. This is a trick-taking game. Standard trick-taking rules apply for the most part. So in this case, we have this player here who's winning the trick with a 12, which is the highest card in a 4-player game. So we know, being this player here, this 4th player over here, I don't have the ability to beat a blue 12. However, one thing I can do is I can still take the blue 12, and taking the blue 12 would be great because as you can see on this card, this little 1 that's in a yellow circle, that is worth 1 crowd favor, and crowd favor is important because once all of the cards have been played out, all of the tricks have been claimed, players will go through their cards and count crowd favor points. So in this case, I really want to steal this crowd favor, and I can do that by challenging. So we mentioned you have to be able to follow suit if you can, or play from the called for school if you can do so. So in this case, I would have to play fists if I can. Now I do have some fist cards in my hand, so I could throw those out and follow suit. The exception to that rule, the one exception to that rule, is being able to challenge. And by challenging, I can play a card that matches the value of the previously played card. So in this example, the last player before me played this 5 of fists. I can actually challenge this by playing a card that matches that value. So I could play this 5 of arrows. This does 2 things. First of all, this is a perfectly legal play. I'm not reneging or any of those terms that you've heard from other trick-taking games. But more importantly, I've also now changed the preferred school, or the trump suit, if you will, to the green arrows. So if we move this to the arrow symbol, now having the trump card, or the highest trump card out, this fourth player over here will win this trick and take all 4 cards, including the 12, and just place them face down in front. This player now becomes the lead player and would lead with a card to try and claim more of the crowd favor points. Now, one of the things you have to be careful of in this game is this player led, the fourth player just won this trick. He leads out with the 10 of blue fists, which is worth a crowd favor point. So whoever wins this trick will get 1 crowd favor. And he leads with a 10. One of the things you have to be careful for in this game is leading high early on in the game, because your opponents have the ability to throw negative crowd favor points on you. So in this case, this first player down here can follow the 10 of the blue 10 that was played. I can follow up with a blue 8. And as this player, I'm not winning this trick, but I'm perfectly happy playing the blue 8, because whoever wins this trick is now going to take negative 4 points. And I know that I can't possibly win the trick because there's a blue 10 over here. Now the other players, again, still have to follow suit. So if they have low blue cards, like this player does, they probably want to slough those cards, meaning they just want to dump them and get rid of them. They're not worth any points. They're low cards. They're going to be difficult stuff to win with. Now in this case, we have, if looking at the case of this player that's up here, looking at their hand that they have here, they really want to play a low blue card, but they only have a blue 9. This blue fist card here that's going to provide 2 crowd favor points to the person who wins the trick. As of right now, this player's winning the trick. So, and I don't have the ability. I could have the ability, if I had a 4 in my hand, I could play a 4 and challenge, changing the trump suit from arrows to whatever the trump suit would be at that point, but that would win me the trick. So I wouldn't necessarily want to do that. So in this case, my best move, unfortunately, even though I'm throwing 2 crowd favor away, is to play the 9. The player here on the right-hand side, our fourth player, is going to win the trick again. He's going to collect all of these crowd favor points. And play is going to continue in this manner until all tricks have been won. Once all of the tricks have been won, players will then take a look at the tricks that they won, and they will count up the crowd favor points that they collected for winning the tricks. So the crowd favor points, again, are printed on the cards, and they are in these yellow circles under the suit. So in the case of player 1, down here at the bottom, they have 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 crowd favor. So that's a pretty respectable score. Up here we have 1, 2, minus 4, so this player has -2. Player 1 is still winning right now. We look up to player 3 up here, who has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, minus 4, which is 2. They also have a 0 card, and I want to show the 0 card here a little closely. Their particular 0 card is worth nothing, and I'll explain it here now. Looking at the 0 card, you'll see in the yellow circle it says 0/5. That means one of the zeros at the end of every round is going to be worth 5 points. The rest of them are worth 0. To determine which 0 is worth the 5 points, you take a look at which suit ended up being the trump suit, or the preferred school. In this case, the axes are the preferred school, so this card is going to be the one that's worth 5. This 0 is going to be the one that's worth 5 points, and it belongs to player 4. Our player 3 up here has the 0 of blue, the blue fist, so it's worth nothing. So they have a total of 2 points up here. So 2, 4, 6, minus 4, they've got 2, we've got a -2, and we've got a 7. Player 4 won a lot of tricks over here and could potentially beat player 1's 7. Let's see what happens. They get 5 for this one. So there's 5, 6, 7. Nothing for either of these zeros. That's 8, 9, 10, which is a fantastic score. However, they picked up 2 -4s. So they picked up -8 points, giving them a 2, meaning that player 1 down here wins with 7 crowd favor, and they get awarded with one of these crowd support tokens. Cards will be collected, shuffled, dealt again, with this player leading off the trick. You will reset the preferred school as well. The trick's going to play through again. Again, players will total up crowd favor points, with the player with the most crowd favor points getting another one of these crowd support tokens. And the game will end when one of the 4 players around the table, or one of the players around the table, has 3 of these tokens. The first player to secure 3 of the crowd's favor wins the support of the crowd and becomes the champion school, or the champion gladiator at the table. And that is how you play Gorus Maximus. So that's Gorus Maximus from designer Connor McGoey, InsideUp Games, featuring art from Kwanchai Moria. Just a quick brief overview of how the game plays. A little quick 2 to 8 player trick-taking game. There is a solo version as well, so this game could be played solo. I have yet to have a chance to play it that way, so I can't really speak to how the solo play goes. But just overall, want to give you just a quick feel for what I think of the game. Love this game. I love trick-taking games, and growing up in Indiana, there was a lot of euchre, a lot of spades, a lot of hearts, things like that get played growing up in Indiana. And I always love when a game takes trick-taking and puts a unique twist on it. A trick-taking game that plays up to 8 people is fantastic. You know, you got euchre, you play 4 people, big deal. With Gorus Maximus, you can play up to 8 players using all 80 cards that are in the box and have a great time with it. The game plays really well at all player counts. Now, I've played it at each player count 2 through 8. I've had one 8-player game that got pretty crazy, and I would say the game definitely plays better at the higher player counts, since you have the ability to change up the preferred school, or the trump suit, if you will, mid-game. With more players, that's happening more often. In the 2 and 3 player games that I've played, it didn't happen very often. Usually it was done, the last player would play a card to challenge, to switch that preferred school and win the trick and kind of steal some crowd favor points. There's still some interesting things that happen at the lower player counts, but at the higher player counts, you get up to 4, 6, 8 players in the game. It gets to be really chaotic. The trump suit's changing a lot, that preferred school changes a lot, and you're really having to try and keep track of which number 8s have I seen already get played, because you don't want those to get thrown out. Once you've seen an 8 of, the 8 of the arrows, for example, get played, well, now I know it's safe to lead with my 9, 10, 11, and 12, at least for the most part. But I would want to do that before, because then someone just throws an 8 at me and I get sloughed with, a -4. So you have to be careful of that. The game itself, very easy to teach, very easy to learn, especially if you're familiar with trick-taking game. The standard trick-taking, mechanisms are there with, high card from the trump suit wins. If there's no trump suit that's been played, then the highest card from the leading suit wins. Very simple to pick up, especially for those who are familiar with the concept. If you're not familiar with the concept, trick-taking is terribly easy, is incredibly easy to pick up as well. But I would definitely recommend checking this out. It's on Kickstarter now. I believe will be for another 15 days or so by the time this video goes up. So you got some time to check it out, watch some of the playthrough videos. There is a video that shows the solo mode and how it plays. I'm looking forward to giving that a try because I do like my solo games. But I highly encourage you to check that out. There's a link to the Kickstarter down in the description of this video. Drop questions and comments below if you have them. I'm happy to answer them to the best of my ability. And that is Gorus Maximus. Until next time, keep gaming, friends.